Thanks for joining us, ladies. I've got on my far left, starting then with Hanan, the founder and owner of the Arabian Gazelles. I'm sure you've seen them online, seen their videos. Absolutely fantastic group of girls, and what an excellent idea, the Arabian Gazelles. Alongside Hanan, we've got Philippa Garner, who's the founder and owner of Driven Productions. You might not have heard of them, but again, you will definitely have seen their videos if you have been watching and following, Motoring Middle East, because they do most of the stuff for Motoring Middle East. And last but certainly not least, joining us on the stage once again is Marion Englert, motoring and motorsport PR specialist and motorsport official. First of all, ladies, thank you so much for coming along. I know that each of you will have been at the show anyway, because let's face it, you're all into cars. So starting off, Hanan, tell us a little bit about the Arabian Gazelles. What are the Arabian Gazelles?
Arabian Gazelle is the first all-female supercar club based in Dubai. We founded this club less than a year ago, and we have been successful in attracting women, petrolhead, and supercar lovers. We're counting around 60 members now.
That's amazing. I can't believe you've only been going for a year, because I must have been following you right from the outset, and every time you look at the pictures or some of the events that the ladies turn up to, you have no idea how passionate these women are about the supercars that they own. You yourself have a very special, or had a very special supercar. You're in the process of changing. What was it that you were driving?
Morgan Aero Super Sport. I'm still having it.
Oh, you still have it? Oh, fantastic! I thought you had sold it, and you were.
No, I couldn't.
Could not bear to get rid of that car. So Arabian Gazelles. Moving on to Philippa then. Philippa, I know you very much from a motorsport background, but that's certainly not everything that you do. Tell us about Driven Productions and how it came about.
Well, I come from a motorsport family, so I've always been around motorsport, and I started in radio broadcasting straight out of school and moved into being a printed journalist, specialising in motorsport. So I was the only female back in Australia reporting on the Supercars Championship, which was our premier touring car championship, and all the other support categories. And then I moved into TV production, so I was a producer for the broadcast for the network. And after I did a lot of producing, I wanted to go and do more filming and editing, because that was one of my passions that I wanted to follow. And it was also good for me to make sure I had lots of various skills in the industry, just so I could be a better producer and director in the future. And I decided to create my own production company in Australia. So I've done motorsport coverage from off-road championships. I've filmed for IndyCar teams at the Indianapolis 500. I'm communications manager for Formula 4 here in the UAE, and TV director for a touring car championship in South Africa. So 95% of my work is involved in motorsport and TV production, filming, editing, producing, and then I do all the filming for the specialist videos for Shazad and Tashan at Motoring Middle East. So we have lots of fun out in the desert in 45-degree heat. So I live, breathe, work, sleep, dream motorsport. But I do some other automotive and general media content as well, but motorsport's it for me. It's intrinsically who I am.
I was going to say 95% motorsport, 5% motoring Middle East. When do you have time to sleep? Because you are always on the go.
Yeah, and the best thing about being here in the Middle East is that you're so close to many different regions. So Europe and the UK are very rich in motorsport history. We've got our own motorsport championship here and scene here, but the calendars are different. So the motorsport seasons start here about September, October and run through till March, but then Europe and South Africa and Australia is from March until December. So I don't actually find time to get time off, because I'm working between different time zones and different calendars. But look, I love it, and I do make time to have a little bit of time off, but if I didn't love it, I wouldn't be doing it. So I'm much more happy working on motorsport than working a general 9-to-5 job, that's for sure.
And I tell you what, we can see that, because this footage, ladies and gentlemen, at the background is what is produced by Philippa. It's the F4 Championship, the regional F4 Championship, and the first FIA Championship to be hosted by the ATC UAE. So if you haven't yet managed to catch up with the F4 Championship as it is, please do have a look at the social media channels, because it's been a phenomenal first season, and I'm presuming you're really looking forward to season 2, which starts very soon.
Yeah, we started the Golf 12 Hours in a couple of weeks, which is great. So it's, I've worked with so many different types of racing drivers, from IndyCar champions, Supercar champions, endurance champions, And then with Formula 4, I'm working with 15 and 16-year-old kids who are just coming out of karting and taking their first steps towards a Formula 1 career. So I do feel a little bit like a mother hen, making sure I keep them all in line, but you know, you do have to have a different media approach working with teenagers than you do with champions, and I learned that the hard way for our first season, but it's really great when you get to use the Middle East as a great platform for these young kids, particularly from overseas. They want to do some testing in our winter time, which they can't do in Europe in particular. But we've had a number of kids go off to Europe and come second in British F4, top 5 in the German F4 Championship. So it's really great to see the Middle East so instrumental in giving a platform for these young racing drivers to be able to hone their skills and move on. So yeah, I'm very proud of the things we've been able to do.
And also, Marion, you kind of mixed both of our other guests together because you come from an automotive background and then moved into motorsport. Just tell us a little bit about your career so far.
Well, actually, I have a pretty similar story than Philippa has because I grew up in a petrolhead family, so I had no choice. And obviously, I made this as my profession as well. I started out as a journalist, specializing in motorcycles at first.
Oh, wow.
And then slowly moving into automotive. And slowly moving from journalism to PR, and then found my love for motorsports, obviously. I'm doing that for more than 25 years now, and there's no better job in the world. I guess Shazad will talk about this later on in his talk.
So,
but for me it is, yeah.
That's a great career, and we've all sort of had careers in different ways. Hanan, did you come from a motoring background where your family... I know my family weren't into cars, and I don't... but I definitely had a passion for them when I was younger. Is that the same for you?
I didn't grow up in like them, for example, no, but I always had a passion for driving supercars. And being in Dubai makes it easier to access and to practice this hobby, actually.
What was the first supercar you ever drove?
The first supercar, I had... Jaguar X8 and Maserati. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is this when you were quite young, or as you?
Yeah.
You're very lucky. That's very lucky.
It was my first car.
Philippa, from a motorsport point of view, have you had the opportunity to drive any of the cars that you've been filming?
Not a lot actually. It's funny when we do so many films with Shazad and Intishan, and we did a great 5-part series on the 50th anniversary of the Camaro. And on the last day, I'm like, can I please sit in the car? I've been filming this for like 5 days now, and I would like to drive it. And I actually did get my car racing license back in Australia when I was a journalist, just to prove to the guys that I was working with that I did know what I was talking about. I do miss being behind the wheel. I haven't really driven many racing cars, but I used to do a lot of track days in Australia, particularly when you were doing feature stories on particular cars. And I did a lot of go-karting as well, so I used to be part of a women's only or ladies only karting event that happens in January every year in Australia. So anywhere between 70 to 90 girls from the ages of 5, 6 all the way up through to their 40s. So I used to do the celebrity races, and I've got a couple of trophies on my cabinet, but I've just been so busy with the media side of things, and racing is expensive. I did get my racing suit and my helmet and all the requirements that you do need to be able to get your car racing license and go through all of the track days and the tuition. But it is expensive, and I think that's one of the things that discourages a lot of girls to continue on, because how do you compete with netball and soccer and football and things like that? I wish I'd done some more, but I'm happy just sticking on the media side and keeping safe on this side of the fence.
Now, Marion, you were previously with Audi. I mean, that's a phenomenal brand to be working for, and you were there for some time. Did that give you an opportunity to really find out about everything there is to know about a car?
Of course it does. I was lucky enough that I had the chance to drive some of these fabulous cars. So I've driven on a race, I was passenger in a GT3 car, so I had a lot of bliss in beautiful cars, and I was lucky enough. And of course, when you dive into it, then you have to.
Now, Hanan, you obviously, we can say that you work in the industry now because you influence people. You are an influencer. Arabian Gazelles is doing very well. It's very strong. One of the things it's done is it's highlighted the fact that there are women who really love cars. You don't have to work in the industry to love cars.
Not only that, you don't need to know all the technical things about cars. Just enough to love being behind the wheels and enjoy driving. You know? So that is actually the only thing we ask for our members. A, to be women, and second, to just love being behind the wheel. The thing is, we see a lot of women here getting used to be driving around town. You know? So they are slowly, enjoying the fact that they can drive the supercars, and it gives them that freedom, the thrill, and it empowers them somehow. So.
Do you have any Saudi women within the group?
Yes, we do. Yes.
So
they were silent fan in the beginning, but now because things are changing, they are they're looking forward to joining our drive in Dubai.
Yeah.
And we actually have a few Saudi princesses who the first thing they ask when coming to Dubai is to go for a drive. So yes, we have a fan base all around the GCC, and we are very happy about the Saudi women. The fact that they will be able to drive very smoothly.
When people meet you, all of, in fact, myself included, when people meet us within the industry, do you ever find that there's like a hesitation, a pause when people say, "Oh, what do you do?" Or there's kind of a look of, "What are you doing here? Do you work in the industry?" Or do you think that it's changing? Perceptions are changing.
Yes, they are, and quickly, thank God. Because when I started almost a year ago, I always had that look where they think that we are just Jumeirah Jane kind of ladies doing spending their time, whatever, having free time in hand. But then they've been following our activities and our drive experiences and our track days, and they could, they have this, their ideas are changing. We are happy that we are contributing in changing this landscape. So they're looking at us as really bona fide drivers, sharing the same passion as they do.
So as you can see, Hanan is an absolutely beautiful, stunning woman. And there is a lot of preconceptions about women driving abilities and what sort of car they drive. So of course meeting Hanan was fantastic because we're both supercar owners for a start. But we did a track activity together. Now, I'm a qualified racing instructor. I jumped into the car with Hanan, and I can say 100% I honestly thought she must have had an instructing background. But you've just got a natural ability. Is that you've been determined to make sure that when you attend events on tracks or on the road that you can match what the boys?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, when I turn up to such events, they always think that I'm just somebody who came to cheer or to, they don't think that I'm there to drive. So I always felt that I really needed to do a little more for them to accept me as part of the drivers that were there to learn or to just enjoy the car. Yes.
Philippa, have you been accepted 100% every step of the way?
It was a struggle in the beginning. When I first started as a motorsport journalist, I was only in my early 20s. And back then in the media centres in Australia, all the other established journalists were in their 40s and 50s. So you can imagine that those gentlemen were looking at me a little bit hesitantly. It's like, how much do you know? Why are you here? What are your intentions about working in the motorsport industry? Because there are preconceived ideas about why women are in motorsport. And usually it's as a racer chaser or someone that wants to date a racing driver or someone that wants to be a promotional girl. Yeah, and that was the mentality back in Australia back then. So I actually went and got my car racing licence just to prove that I knew what a braking marker was, that I knew what a racing line was. And yeah, there were some times where I wasn't really believed, but I've always just let my work do the talking. There was one particular time when I was a sub-editor proofreader at a magazine, and I was doing a bit of writing for them as well. And they decided to do a Motor Olympics event where they got all of the best Australian automotive journalists together for a day at the racetrack. So some time trials, some slalom, let's test your abilities, who's the best car journalist? And they said, "Oh, Philippa, do you want to come along and be the timekeeper? Can you just write down the results? Just that we've got some notes for the journalists to write their stories." So I did. I just kept my mouth quiet. And when we got there during the day, the instructors at that particular event were actually my instructors, but I never told anybody that they had taught me how to race. So during the lunch break,
that they said, oh, do you want to just get in one of the cars and just have a bit of fun while the other journalists are having lunch? So I did, and I clocked the 4th fastest time out of the 11 guys there. And the most cocky driver, or a journalist that was there that day, as soon as I got out of the car, I was like, how did you do that? I'm like, well, how come you're guessing that I can't do that? Like, why are you judging me? You don't even know anything about me. So I've had to always go above and beyond and do more, but there's a plus side to that. You know, I gain more skills, I get more confidence, I feel like I'm more successful because I've pushed myself more than anybody else has. So yeah, there are bonuses, but it can be frustrating after a while. But you know, now I've been doing it nearly 20 years, I don't have time for that. I'm not going to believe what I can do, I just move on.
I think the best thing is when you get to a point where, say if you go karting for instance, my name, Alex, could be a male name or a female name, and I have been standing looking at the timing board and been at the top. But I mean, I'm there, you know, or I was there every single day, so I would hope that I would be towards the top of the board. And stood beside people that go, yeah, that guy at the top, he's good. I'm like, excuse me, that's me. Oh, did you cut a corner? No, I didn't cut a corner. I can't believe you're actually saying that.
But no one would ask the guys that. It's always they ask the girls, just to prove yourself.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And Marion, for yourself as well, you having worked, you know, from a PR point of view and also from an official's point of view, so you were with the World Endurance Championship with SRO, and that must have been, you must have been surrounded by men all the time. Did you ever feel as though they looked at you and thought, oh well, she must be the journalist, or she must, you know, be this, looking after sponsorship or something like that?
Not at all. I mean, the only problems I faced was back in my days as editor-in-chief for Motorcycle magazine. Because back then I was one of the first female doing that in Germany. And they looked at me and said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm test driving that motorcycle. And they were like, serious? And I mean, of course, like Philippa said, you have to prove them, or you have to go the extra mile for them to take you seriously. But I also remember my very first steps here in the UAE as a car journalist, a legendary AMG performance tour where I was also one of the only women there and all the other guys. And I won that competition. So, and Bernd Schneider handed me my trophy, and I could see the faces of my male colleagues who did not like that the only female journalist here won that prize. And that's something I enjoy. And as for motorsports, as you see, and if you look around, there's so many women actually working in motorsports, but people don't talk about them because they're not the race car drivers, but they are team managers, they are engineers, they work in the marketing, they work in PR, in the organization, so there's quite a lot of women. If you walk through a paddock and look how many women actually there are, and very successful women. So I think that times are over that you're not being taken seriously as a woman in that branch.
Which leads me nicely onto the question of inspiration. Were there ever any women that really inspired you within motoring?
Oh, I always looked up to Lena Garde. She's still my hero because I think her career is exceptional, and she really made a point in being a woman doing something nobody ever expected a woman to do. And she's still very successful, but she's still my hero.
Wonderful. Philippa?
From a journalist, TV producing point of view, no, because there was no other women doing it. That was difficulty for me. There were female racing drivers that were very established in Australia. Obviously, there's women overseas that work in team management, like Manisha Keltenborn and drivers like Danica Patrick, who's changing the face of women in motorsport. But from a journalistic point of view, my inspiration and my mentors were actually all men. So I was really grateful that they imparted their wisdom, they took me under their wing, and still to this day I have a great working relationship with all of them back in Australia where I started. So if it wasn't for them accepting me, as soon as I started doing my first couple of feature stories and they could see that I could write and they knew that I knew what I was talking about, and the same thing with all the drivers and the team managers in pit lane, there was there's no issue. I've always felt like I was part of the family once I got over that initial hurdle, but I wish there was more women reporting on it and being a journalist. There are now, since I've sort of left Australia and come over here, there are more women doing it. But I wish I had that sort of mentorship back then. But you just have to stick to your guns and believe that you can do it and just go for it and not have any doubts about it.
Absolutely. And any women that you really look up to, whether they're in motoring or outside of motoring?
No, unfortunately, when you start something new, like the Arabian Gazelles, and that has not been done before, and I didn't have any inspiration in that domain. But I was a big fan of F1 legend Ayrton Senna, so I don't know if that constitutes, but he inspired the love of supercars. Yes.
But even, I know that Ayrton's sister was very prominent around, she wasn't racing, she wasn't working in F1, but whenever there was events going on around the industry, she was always there. And even now, she really is a face in I suppose more motorsport than anything else, but she's shown herself to be a very strong, proud woman who knows the sport so well inside and out. What do you think is the best thing about being a girl working around cars and bikes?
I think because when I first started, it was so unique. It was easy for me to create a niche market for myself. That was the best thing in Australia, because there wasn't really anybody else doing what I was doing. And I was writing for 3 or 4 magazines. I was proofreading for chopper magazines and street machine magazines, and I was working for mags that were similar to the same family of like Wheels magazine over here in the UAE. So yeah, I was able to get a bit of attention, I suppose, so people could actually. I stood out like a sore thumb to start with because I was the only one doing it, but. It enabled me to be able to learn quickly and create a market so I could create my own business or be successful. So that's one of the things I'm most proud of and thankful for that. It's hasn't shone a limelight on me because I haven't really deserved the limelight, but it's just allowed me to open up other doors that probably wouldn't have opened up if I was a male, just because there's lots of guys doing this. So sometimes an editor or a TV producer wants to take a chance on something a little bit different to get a different perspective. So that's, I've been grateful for those sorts of doors that have opened up for me.
Hanan, Mariam? Hanan, what's the best thing about being a supercar owner of a women's supercar club?
What I'm enjoying is the fact that we not only we inspire women in the club to live their passion, but also outside of the club. I mean, if any woman has any passion, she has to go for it, regardless of how the society looks at it. And also that fact of pushing women to pursue their passion is the best thing about this club.
And Marion?
Yeah, the same with me. Being a woman in a male-dominated world, some of the guys really, they took me under their wing, and I learned a lot. And also, like Philippa said, you're a bit of a pink elephant, so you create some mileage for yourself, and especially in the motorcycle industry back then, I was the only one. So people remembered me, so whenever I came across these people later on, there was that was her, that was that lady who did something nobody else did. And that still comes to pass today, so it's nice to have that extra, but not anymore. Because nowadays there's a lot of women out there, and it's good that way. And I support every woman who wants to go this way, because I think it's amazing if they dare to.
Philippa?
One thing's a little bit similar to that. Working in TV and always interviewing racing car drivers and recording film, it's amazing how. Just say I'm interviewing the #1 touring car driver in Australia, or Sebastian Vettel comes out here for Formula 1. It's amazing the reaction that they have, answering questions from a female than a man. I used to watch my senior producer all the time in V8 Supercars, interview these drivers that we know day in, day out, and boys, when they talk to boys, they grunt. Yep, yeah, the car's good. There's no love. It's amazing as a female sitting there asking the questions. They smile when you smile. They react to you because guys like talking to girls. It's just an ambience that's really comforting. So, and I've always said this and I don't mind actually doing lots of interviews. And I say, use me as a female. Use me to your benefit, because if I asked one particular racing driver a question and then a male journalist asked the same question, it'd be totally 2 different answers just because of the way that we react between the sexes. So I love that
about being a female, because I can get so much more emotion when I'm doing interviews and feature documentaries. So yeah, that makes the product even better. So when I mentor a lot of girls that want to come up through it, I said use your femininity to the best advantage and to the most positive light, so you can get the best product and the best content out there.
I'll never forget, I started out as a commentator in the pit lane. Of course, inevitably, if you're a woman and you want to commentate on motorsport, you're going to be put into the pit lane to interview the drivers when they come in. So I started doing that, and then fortunately, somebody who worked at a television station had heard me on the radio one day and said, would you be interested in commentating on this race? And it was GP2. And I said, yeah, absolutely, not even thinking that it was commentating on the whole race. So I get into the studio, we're set up, and I was like the sidekick to the main commentator. One weekend, he missed his flight. No, sorry, one weekend, he couldn't make it, he wasn't very well. So I ended up commentating, and the next season, I ended up commentating full-time for GP2 for a TV station. Next year, they started this championship that was based here called Speed Car, all ex-F1 drivers, and again, I was asked to do it, put into the pit lane. We then were contracted to do Speed Car and GP2, but I wasn't allowed to do GP2 because it was just pit lane for Speed Car. This time, the commentator for GP2 unfortunately didn't make his flight from the UK. They got in a panic. We were in Malaysia or Indonesia, one of the two, and the guys from Formula One management said, look, we've got guys coming in from Star World or ESPN, but they can't get here till tomorrow. Look, we're really sorry, but we're going to have to put you in to do the testing, and you're going to have to be in the booth, and you're going to have to commentate. I didn't say anything, because they hadn't even asked me had I ever commentated. So of course, 2-3 minutes in, and I'm opening this commentary for GP2, and I knew all the drivers, and I knew the circuits, and I knew how to give a running commentary of something. And then I started hearing laughing in my ear, because you got 10 people that are speaking to you at any one time. And then at the end they went, oh my goodness, that was amazing. And I said, well, it's not my first time. I have actually been commentating on this championship for the last 2 years for a TV series. Really? And the next thing was, exactly as you're saying, Philippa, we've never heard a female commentator, and we think this is a really good idea. So I ended up doing GP2 for Formula One management for 5 seasons and thoroughly enjoyed it. And then went on to do MotoGP. But it's amazing that it's almost like gets to the point where people don't even realise that you may have already had the experience of doing something like testing motorcycles, like working as a TV producer within motor racing, like owning a supercar and having a supercar club. It's just incredible that these things kind of go unnoticed, but definitely things are changing. Do you think that things are getting much better for us? Or is that going to, will that mean that the opportunities start to dwindle?
I think it's changing already. As you see, there's so many women out there now. And Filippo was the first, I was the first, Hanan is the first who's doing it. So I think it's changing. And I think also that people are taking you more serious as a woman because they trust that you have the knowledge. Because in some regions, unfortunately also in the Middle East, some people think as a woman you cannot have a clue about cars, which is not true, or about motorcycles or something like this. And I think, but slowly but surely people are trusting that you have the same brains and the same knowledge that a male colleague can have.
So just while we finish up on the F4, if you can change this from F4 to the Supercar Club, but I need to ask that question that, I don't know about you, but when you're interviewed by journalists, especially male journalists, that question comes up all the time. Why is there not, why have we not seen a woman in Formula One, actually racing in Formula One? What do you say to people when you are asked that question? Hannah, do you ever get asked that question? No? Do you get asked questions like, why do we see so many men driving supercars but so few women driving supercars?
Well, I get this question a lot. Why did you set up a supercar club only for women? Because there are other supercars in Dubai. So, and why can't we join the club? Why does it have to be only women? You know? So the answer is simple. We want to have our own club where we can really enjoy what we're doing without having the all that pressure that comes when guys get together. Because I participated in other car club drives, and it was always stressing. So I thought we are better off having a relaxed atmosphere where like-minded women can enjoy this sport and this hobby.
Yeah. Philippa, you must have been asked the question about women in F1. What's your answer?
It's not just F1, it's all of the top touring car categories around the world as well. I mean, in Australia, I'm part of a committee that's part of our governing body called the Women of Australian Motorsport, and we work with the Women Motorsport Commission at the FIA, and we constantly have exchange programs for officials to work in other regions, particularly between Singapore and New Zealand. We have scholarships for junior karters as well coming through. But what we're seeing is that a young girl who's 5 or 6, once they start going through school, then they get distracted by boys and university, and then it's getting married and kids. And there's a lot more distractions for girls as they're growing up than guys would. So it is retaining girls in the sport between karting and single-seaters or karting and production cars is difficult. So you're seeing a few come through, but not as many as what you probably would like. But there's lots of difficulties. I mean, I love Susie Wolff. I think she's fantastic in what she's done in F1, but also in production cars and her other previous championships. And she's come and spoken at a few of our events at the Melbourne Grand Prix in Australia, and she's so inspirational. I think we just need to keep supporting girls and keep reinforcing the fact that we can do it. And a lot of the work we do in Australia particularly is just mentoring and being there as an ear and showing that there are so many different successful women in the sport that you can do it too. And a lot of the time these girls are discouraged from working in the industry because there's just too many guys, or it's too hard, or you need to be playing with Barbie dolls and all these stereotypes. Some of the things, not playing with cars and hen dolls. So yeah, there's lots of challenges. I think the next F1 female driver or the next female touring car, I mean, we have a female Simona Di Silvestro working in supercars. That's great to have a prominent one. But I reckon the next Formula One world champion female driver is still 4 or 5 years old in karting, and they're going to have to stick to it, commit to it, find a lot of sponsorship and a lot of support. It's hard work for a chick to get all the way up to F1. Definitely hope we can do it. There's no reason why we can't. It's just being in the right environment to nurture that and pursue that. The stereotypes of women in motorsport are definitely changing, and I'm seeing. Actually, it was interesting when Danica Patrick first came on IndyCar, and she was doing the photo shoots in her bikini and half her race suit and the helmet and the makeup and looking all sexy. And then I suddenly saw all these young girls coming through Australian motorsport trying to do the same thing. But I'm really proud that girls now don't feel the pressure to do that. So I think the mentality is changing. There's still a long way to go. There's still circumstances that aren't pleasant. You have to have a thick skin. But definitely, I think girls are the ones, women are driving that. We are standing up, saying we don't have to put a bikini on to do a centerfold shoot in our racing suit. We don't have to put all the makeup on. We are, our racing and our success does the talking, and can gain the sponsorship. And I think someone like Simona is great for Australian motorsport because it's showing that someone who works hard, is successful, doesn't need to do photo shoots, can still be at the top echelons of motorsport. So it's really pleasant to see tides finally changing.
Do you know what's really funny, and I might ask some of the audience as well to kind of think of female automotive or motorsport representatives. There was, there have been quite a few women that have gone through. Michelle Mouton, who we were talking about the other day, who narrowly missed out on the World Rally Championship in the late 80s, only because her father was ill and she flew out and missed one stage, therefore she dropped back. But she would have been a world champion in motorsport. Danica Patrick, as you said, Susie Wolff, and there are quite a few. There's quite a few girls go into Moto3 on the way up to MotoGP and do quite well, and then the bikes get bigger and there's definitely more of a physical aspect. But there was one lady in the super touring era who did both DTM and the equivalent of what was then World Touring Cars. And I can't remember her first name, but her name was Winkelhock. Now, she was a really, really good driver, However, she didn't get a great deal of publicity because let's just say she didn't look anything like Danica Patrick. She was completely the opposite. Let's just say she wasn't married, and she kind of had this like stereotypical what men thought women that worked on cars would look like. She was great. She was a really, really good. She wasn't just a good driver, she was a good ambassador for women. And we just don't mention her and we don't hear of her. Do you think we need to, as women in the industry, we're almost constantly trying to be more feminine than perhaps we would be, just so we're not taken for granted?
I don't know. I think just be who you are. And I want to pick up what Philippa said earlier with Susie Wolf. What she does, she is an ambassador for a program Dare to Be Different. And I just attended an event in the UK last week. And she encouraged women out there, be engineers, medical team, race car drivers, to pursue their dreams. And she was giving such an inspirational speech about her career, how everything started, the obstacles she faced. And it was just amazing how she really pushes young girls to pursue this career. And we have some ladies out there. Look at Claudia Hüttgen, for instance. She's a very successful race car driver as well. And she doesn't give a shit about makeup or something like this. And people like her anyways, and she's a good driver. Or Rahel Fry, there is ladies out there, and they don't care, and they don't need bikini shots.
Did Susie tell you about how she hated racing a pink car as well?
She did not.
Why is it always that girls are expected to race racing cars that are pink? You know, great to
She was asked to wear pink.
Yeah, her racing car had to be pink. She hated it.
Yeah.
To me, it was for a marketing ploy back then. You know, it's like, oh, it's great to have a new girl in a pink racing car doing British touring cars or DTM or whatever it was.
Even before that, I know Susie from my very first job, which was the only circuit in the country that we both come from, and she had to struggle. She struggled back then, and that was, entry level. So I think she really toughened up in her first few years in the industry, and it's such a shame she had to do that. I've done a number of television adverts and films as a stunt driver, and when people ask for my show reel and I show them, they then say, "Oh, were you actually in that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm the one that's dressed up as the man." Like literally 90% of the time I do something for precision or stunt driving, I am dressed as a man. And it's almost like saying, oh well, women can't drive fast cars, which is an awful thing.
But there's even small things, like when I worked for Supercars Championship, our uniform was male clothing. Our pants were men's cut, our shirt were men's cut. And finally, now, 10, 15 years later, yeah, it's all, for females. We even had one event on the Gold Coast where there was no female toilet demountables out the back of the pits. It was all male toilets. And we've got a team owner, Betty Clemenco, in Supercars, and she demanded, she goes, get those female toilets out the back, because I have female engineers and mechanics in my team, where are they going to go to the bathroom? So there's even small things like that people always forget about, but only come to light because we have to raise the subject. So yeah, it's unfortunate.
And it is changing. Well, listen, before we wrap up, I need to ask, well, definitely Hanan, what's your favourite car? What would you say you can most associate with as a woman owning supercars?
I'm going to be really unoriginal, but the car I'm driving, I feel it's special. It's one of a kind. It's actually the only one around Dubai, the Morgan Aero Super Sport.
And it is a beautiful car, and if we go onto your Instagram and social media accounts, there's definitely pictures of that car there. Philippa, what would you say for you as an introduction? What would be your absolute dream job within the industry?
Definitely TV directing, motorsport, and I'm doing a lot of that in post-production in South Africa, but to be back in a live broadcast van again and be directing that, producing that would be insane. But it's funny talking about supercars. I drive a rental car here in the UAE. I don't have a car, but I love V8s. I've always, and I'm half Italian, so you would expect that I would be a part of the Tifosi and loving Formula One and idolising F1. But I grew up as an Australian touring car fan. I love the sound of a V8, and I love that grunt. I love the smell of the petrol when you start the car up. And I actually have my grandfather's 1974 HQ utility, so it's a classic Holden, which is part of the General Motors
family. Unfortunately, Holden's not manufacturing in Australia anymore, but as far as a car, that I love because it symbolises my whole career and how I got into it. So yeah, anything that's V8 I love, and for career, yeah, TV producing and being back in live broadcasting.
Well, best of luck to you. Marion, can we ask what's best? Road cars, race cars, or motorbikes?
Oh my God, this is a question I cannot answer. I would say all three of them, and the bike at its time, the race car at its time, and the road car at its time, and best of all three in my garage.
Okay, yeah, that's a very good idea. I always think it's best to have things in your living room. Mechanical things in your living room always look good. Listen, ladies, where can we find out more about you? Hanan, let us know for those people who want to be inspired to join the club and find out more about yourself.
Well, they can follow us on Instagram, Arabian Gazelles. They can contact us also on Instagram if they want to join the club. Yes.
Brilliant. And Philippa?
My filming and adventures is under Driven Productions on Instagram and Facebook. I'm also part of the White Fox publishing and production group here in the UAE, and all of the video production that Shazad and Imtishan that we do out in the desert. So yeah, we'll watch all of their videos. That's me as well.
Okay, so before we leave, we must go to the floor, and I'm sure there are going to be some questions, because I know that Shazad wanted to ask a couple of questions. But any questions for any of the girls, or anyone who, would you like to pitch one of these microphones? Or anybody that is looking to get into cars or your favourite cars, we'd love to hear from you. Anyone? We've got one. Hello. Nice to meet you. Shazad, when you're standing there and you're looking at the four of us sitting up here, do you feel intimidated?
Me personally, no. I feel very proud, especially because I'm closely associated with at least three of you, and I'm very proud to be associated with you. I respect all of you, and I've done work with all of you, and I think you're all brilliant at what you do, and I think you're a fantastic inspiration. I would like to ask a question. The question is a little bit tricky, but it's quite topical, because we've had this situation at the moment with Hollywood and other industries as well, where there have been instances of sexual harassment. And I did want to touch on that and say, have you experienced such a thing? How would you advise other people about that sort of scenario? How have you rebutted it?
Well, I'll start then. I think if we, and this seems to be what's happening in, like you said, Hollywood or wherever it is, if you look back and think about what was acceptable at the time and what isn't acceptable now, there are definitely areas where you think, I cannot believe that at that time people got away with saying things or doing things, or just generally the disrespect of treating you, or you having to prove something. But as Philippa said, I think the big thing working in this environment, in a male-dominated environment, from I've done military, and obviously I've been in automotive and motorbikes and everything, it's that thing of proving yourself. Stay quiet, do your job, prove yourself, and then you'll be fine. And there's always going to be people who are going to, want to sort of criticise you, but I think that's whatever you do in life, whoever you are. I don't know whether you'd agree.
Yeah, guys, years ago would try and say something funny, and I mean, when you're working in pit lane, there's lots of mechanics, and there's young guys who probably haven't got the maturity to know what to say or not. I did go through a scary period when I had my drink spiked at one of the after parties when I was working in supercars, so that was a little bit of an awkward time for me to try to work out, well, what happened and how does this happen, but you've got to have a good support group around you. So I think if you've always got someone really that you can talk to, the great thing about motorsport is that there are always officials around. There's always someone in race control that you can talk to, the medical team managers. So if there's ever an uncomfortable situation, there's always someone you can discuss something with if something really serious does happen. I mean, thankfully, I know in Australia that motorsport has stayed away from that sort of stuff. You see scandals in football and soccer players and things going wrong in those sorts of areas. So motorsport you don't really hear much about, but it doesn't mean it's protected, because it's not. So I think we all sort of experience some sort of slander or comments, or even like I explained about the situation where they didn't believe that I could drive and the guys are judging you. So I think that's the worst thing that they probably can get, is that they judge you before giving you an opportunity to prove yourself. I think as you get older and get more maturity, sort of like sweep it under the carpet, and you stop people and say, well, no, can you not say that, because that's not fair. But when you're young, it is difficult. It's like any industry, I suppose. When you're young and trying to prove yourself, you do sometimes feel uncomfortable, but thankfully nothing too serious. No.
I think the good thing about, especially about, in fact, all three of us, and I know you're sort of working with women more than men, but in motor racing, definitely, when you start out, I was relatively young, and all the drivers, because it's a young industry, the drivers were either sort of the same age or a little bit older, and then as you progress through your career, you're suddenly the same age and then you're a little bit older, and you watch them from a very young age. If you followed the different series through and through, you know the guys that are in F1 because you knew them when they were in Formula Renault or F4 or whatever. And there have been a couple of times where I've been able to say, as I've got older, listen, you are not too old for me to push you off your skateboard and ruin your career, so be nice and play the game. And it works. You know, it's nice to be an older woman in a young, male-dominated society.
I actually had a situation when I was working with some younger teenagers in Formula 4, actually, earlier in the beginning. You get cocky drivers that have got lots of money and daddy pays for the seat. And as a media manager, a communications manager of a championship, it's my job to stalk all of my drivers. Check them out on social media, their Facebook, their Instagram. And there was one particular kid that wrote something very crude on their Facebook. So I went to the team and I said, that needs to come off now, because I don't want to have a scandal, I don't want to have a media headache, and if you're going to be part of my championship and I'm going to look after you and promote you, you need to then help me with that. So yeah, sometimes you do get some kids, because teenage boys think they can get away with saying what they want, and even sometimes girls actually, who like putting lots of selfies up on their Facebook, and wearing short dresses or in compromising situations with their girlfriends out drinking. It's like, you need to learn how to distance your private life from your public profile. And I think I'm glad that I'm in a position that I can educate those young girls. It's like, you make your private page private. I don't want to see any photos of tongues poking out and wearing short dresses, just to protect them. So when you're working with younger kids, yeah, you do need to sort of pull them up and have a quiet word and say, look, this is not good for your profile. And social media is so powerful. You just need one scandalous photo out there and the whole category goes up in flames and gets lots of media attention for the wrong reasons. So that's something that we always also need to be careful of, particularly for the young girls that are coming through and like partying with their friends. You just tone it down and be professional, and that's how you'll get the sponsorship and the credibility.
Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget, Ignition Live continues. Can I say thank you to Shazette? I have just seen the leaflet for this. Where's the three women in business suits? Why is this? Who
are we?
Bums on seats, whatever. Just as bad as the rest.
I'm going to wrap up for you, Alex, because I want a round of applause, not just for our guests, but Alex as well. Please, massive round of applause for these incredible ladies up there. Please, thank you so much.